Hey there, friends. You are going to want to tune into part 2, which is coming right up of my talk with Dr. Jess Beachkofsky. And here is where she breaks down how to work through with processing your thoughts and feelings when it comes to decluttering. And then she will give us some practical tips that may help us when we are feeling overwhelmed about it. And for me, what I appreciated most about talking with her was that she was so encouraging and down to earth. And so I hope you have enjoyed part 1 and that you will continue on listening and enjoying part 2. So without further ado, here is the reason why we can't let go of stuff we no longer need, use, or love, and how to break free. Enjoy! Welcome back to Organize with Grace podcast. If you're ready to declutter your life and home so that you can make room for peace in your heart, you're in the right place. Join me, Grace Ramon, your host and home organizer, where I and my guests share tips and encouragement to help you get started, especially when you don't know where to start. I'm here with you as you begin your decluttering journey, so let's get going. You ready?
So just kind of figuring out where those values are to help make things align with your goals. Because if it's not aligning, you won't be able to maintain it. It's not going to work. So figure out why. It doesn't mean the outcome will be different, but like you want to line it up because that sets you up for a successful transition. Like you want to make these changes, you'll be more successful if you know why, and you can kind of refer back to that because it can be hard to do things like this. So I mean, those are so that's some stuff right there. So it feels good when we buy stuff a lot of times. Like you get a little dopamine hit. So like you get those little endorphins. Everything is like swimming around in there. And that makes me. There is a saying, something like when you buy something cheap, that's the best you'll ever feel about it. But if you buy something expensive and high quality, that's the worst you'll ever feel about it. I read it and I had to read it a couple times. I was like,
that's good.
Wait a second. Oh, I get it. Yeah. So you can appreciate. So if you have a lot of really nice things, that also makes it hard. But like, that's something thoughtful when you're bringing things into your house. Be thoughtful. Like,
thoughtful. Yes.
With intention.
Because when I would just go to Target and just because I was bored and I'll just pick up, 5, 6 things and, for what? Not, for no reason.
Because
for
of
no
marketing.
reason at all.
I love I'm such a sucker for good marketing. Like it doesn't even have to be that good. Target just puts that thing right by the door. I can't even make it in the door. I'm like, what is all this stuff? I can't go to the store. I do all those like delivery places because I can't. I'm so overstimulated when I go to the store. I'm like, I want this and I want this and I want this. Like, so I don't go to the store. Usually there's a cart filled with junk in Target somewhere that's been abandoned. That's me because I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I came here for. I don't know what I've done. I have to leave now. So you can go and shop and not buy anything.
You're like, abort. Gotta go.
I can't handle this. It's too much. So you have to think about how you feel about those things. But then so some of the stuff. One of the things when people are decluttering, there are 2 groups I think here. I have big buckets, just so you know. I put a lot of people in big buckets. I don't like to have 35 buckets. I have 2 or 3 buckets with a lot of people in them. So I get it. It's not going to specifically apply to whoever I'm putting in this bucket, but there's 2. I'm making 2. The one bucket is the people that love to see the decluttering, and the other bucket is the people that don't really want to notice it, obviously. So you have to figure out which person you are. Do you want to see, like, I made a huge transition. I emptied out half of my closet, and now I have this big white space that I can do what I want with. Or is that going to make you super anxious because you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Where's all my stuff? Or you need to like pick a spot. I'm going to do this piece right here, and then I'm going to go over in this part of the house and do this piece right here. So some people need to spread it around so it's not so big. Or maybe you're in a household that doesn't want to be shocked. Like, where are all my toys? Like, No, there's just spread them around. They're still there. So there's that thing. Um, Speaking of toys, there's a thing about moms and keeping stuff. So there are again, we're gonna make two buckets. There's the mom that keeps everything for her kids. They're like, this is valuable. I want to remember this. I want them to remember it. And then there's the other mom that's like, this is too much stuff. Like we should pass this on, let other people use it. Both of those moms feel guilty. Isn't that crazy? Like the
Wow.
mom who's keeping all
That's
this stuff
crazy. Yeah.
feels
That's,
guilty that
mhm.
she's like holding on to all these things. And the mom who gives it away is like, oh, look, I feel guilty that I didn't have the stuff to like give my kids later. And your kids are completely oblivious to like either of those things. So it's just
Oh my gosh, what a
needless
great
guilt.
point. They're
Yeah, they don't
oblivious to
care.
it. Oh wow. Yes. And I've been wanting to talk about like to have a podcast episode about this whole thing, mom guilt, and and I love that you pointed that out. It is
Oh,
needless
it's a
most of the
big part of
time.
what I deal with,
Wow.
and that's one of the saddest things I
Mhm.
think because we're all I mean we all do it. It's terrible. It's hard to get away
Mhm.
from it, but
We do.
it could be less. You could have less.
Could be less. Mhm.
So take your
Mhm.
things. So you're
And
gonna look at your things. Um, First of all, your things are things. Um, I say that with a
yes.
little bit. So I'm a psychiatrist, and I see a wide variety of people. I can only weigh in on what we know about psychiatry and the brain from a science perspective.
Okay.
Like people come to me and they're like, "My
Yeah.
house is haunted. It has ghosts," and I'm like, "I don't treat ghosts unless they live in your head. Like if you think there's real ghosts, like that's not what I'm here for. I don't give medication for ghosts that live in your house. Like if they live in your
Yeah.
head, we can do something with that." So there's a lot of stuff that I don't know, but as far as objects go, what we know about objects is they are made up of matter. They are atoms, they are just objects,
Mhm.
and everything that's valuable about them is what the value is that we place on them. So I'm gonna mention two objects that will get people riled up. A religious
Okay.
cross, which is really a
Uh-huh.
very simple thing, right? It's a piece that goes sideways and a
Yes.
piece that goes vertical and they touch in the middle with right angles. Like that's what we're talking about. Um, but I don't think you're just going to go throw away your religious objects, right? Like somebody would be upset if you're like cleaning
Yeah.
things out. Like it feels weird. My husband's Jewish and we still feel funny like when we see something like, "Oh, I don't can we throw that? Like what do we do with that?" Like a lady made us a card and it was like, "Ugh." And it's funny because like even like we know better. It's just paper. It's
Yeah.
just paper, but it feels funny like I don't want to
Right.
throw away this
Right.
symbol. Or the flag, whatever
Mhm.
nation you're a part of, like
The flag.
people are
Mhm.
sensitive about their flags. You can't just toss it. Well, this flag doesn't look that good. We'll just throw it away. We have rules about how, at least in the United States, we have rules about how we dispose
We do.
places,
Right.
people you can call to come and get them and dispose of them in a appropriate way. So these are some things like high level symbols that are just objects, but I'm not gonna touch those because I don't know. You you do that part. But some of the other stuff you really have to remember if you're trying to declutter and you have a lot of stuff and it means a lot to you, you can't just be like, well, this one's valuable and this one's valuable and this one's valuable and this is, and they're all, then we're not really doing anything useful. Um, the other thing is that just because you get rid of something doesn't mean that you don't care about what it stood for you. So people get rid
Yes.
of things, kids' toys. Just because you got rid of some of your kids' stuff from when they were younger doesn't mean you don't love your kid or don't want to remember their childhood or don't value that. You lost your grandma.
Mhm.
Even if you
Mhm.
didn't have a close relationship, you might hold on to a lot of stuff, but letting go of that stuff, she's not that stuff. She is not that stuff. She has
She's not
memories
that
that
stuff.
live in that stuff for you, but you can capture those memories without keeping the stuff. The biggest thing
Right.
that I recommend to people here is documenting and taking pictures. So pretty much everyone has a
Mm.
smartphone, pretty much. Take pictures of your stuff. If you're
Mhm.
afraid that you're going to forget something, take pictures of your stuff. Just put them in folders and look at them when you're like, I have a few minutes in a waiting room. Instead of reading the magazine or just checking your emails, reminisce. Look at your pictures. Remind yourself of some nice things so you can feel
Yeah.
good. And then if it's more than that, you can have someone. You can use a tripod, or you can have someone, or just stack it up against some books. But talk to your object or talk to the camera about the object and why it matters, so you don't forget. Remind yourself why it
That's
matters so
great.
much, and you may never
Yeah.
need to look at it again, but you've taken that external piece of storage and put it in the cloud that you'll have forever. So, or your family members or whatever,
Forever.
because
Wow.
this is just an object, but it's what it's connected to that matters. And I'm pointing at the cloud, not at anything else. Just the cloud. The cloud. That's what I'm talking about. The cloud is probably in
Yeah.
the ground. I don't know
Yeah.
where the cloud is, but we call it the cloud. So yeah. So all your external storage that really doesn't exist in a real place, necessarily. That's where a lot of these things need to live. Or you can display them.
Yeah.
Like if you find something and it's fabulous, you can put up just about anything. You can frame things, you can, get plate hangers. If you have an instrument from somebody, like turn it into like a sculptural piece so like people can appreciate it and enjoy it. Don't just keep it shoved in your garage or your closet or whatever. um, and
That's
those are for
so
the
true.
the
That's so
things that
true.
you feel
Yeah.
are too valuable to get rid of, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the other things, like
Mm-hmm.
even my kids, I won't. So we have one of those fridges you can't stick stuff to, like the stainless steel or whatever. So you can't put the magnets with the pictures. I'm okay with that because I don't really want to
Mm-hmm.
like the pictures get everywhere and they get all water dripped on them. And, yeah. Um, but my kids
Yes.
know, like, we take pictures. Like, they bring home stuff. We talk about their thing. Like, that looks like that was fun. Like, how did you make this? Like, this is very cool. And then we take a picture of it, and then it goes in the trash. Like, that's what we do. Like, do you want to put this in your
Nice.
room? No, let's just take a picture. And that's what we do. And so the kids have, and I have
Wow.
folders for each of
Yeah.
them in the cloud. And so they want to see their old pictures. And this is above and beyond, but I make a little photo book, really cheap one. Walgreens has great ones. And every year they get one for their birthday, and I include pictures of the pictures that they drew. And they
Oh,
love it
that's
because they're
sweet.
like, look, I remember
Yes.
the thing.
Yes.
And so you're still doing what's important. You're still putting it
Yeah.
on the figurative fridge, but you don't have piles of stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody wants
Y-
that. You
The
don't want
things. The
to
things. The
graduate from
piles.
college
Yeah.
and your mom is like, okay, the truck is here with all of your boxes of shit that I kept forever. Like, here you go. I saved it for you. And you're like, no, I don't, I don't want this stuff.
And you know what's funny? It happens all the time. Like it's in the garage for like 20 years somewhere, and they're never going to pick it up, and you don't want it, and it's just stuck. It's just like a
Yeah.
stuck
And it's got
items.
that, it's imbued
And you
with
don't
your
want stuck
kids. You're like,
items.
but my kid is in there. Your kid is not in there. Your kid is not there. It's a weird mental thing, but your kid is not in the picture. It's
Yeah.
just paper with stuff on it. Like, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I
Yeah.
struggle sometimes too, but not, I don't think as much as some people, some people do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh,
And so yeah, go
well, I was
ahead.
going to say, so then there are the things that you might actually need. And I would say for people that are,
Mhm.
so I don't want to weigh in on the, like, maybe this will fit me again thing, because that's a whole different set of
I
issues.
get it.
That's different. But I want you to, if you have items and you're holding on to them because you might need them again, think of the context and when you will need this thing. Like, I want you to have a specific context where you would use this thing. Create a
Mm,
scenario when it actually is going to matter. And then think if this is actually the thing you're going to use, or are you secretly going to go buy a new thing because there's a better one,
mm,
and you wouldn't even use the
right.
thing that you've been saving for the opportunity that you might need it for anyway. You're like, yeah, but that was 15 years ago, and now the technology has changed so much. I need a new thing. So now you've just
Yeah. Yeah.
wasted all that space and mental energy. And yeah,
Okay, mental energy. Yes. It takes so much, and we wonder why. I mean, decluttering itself is very exhausting mentally because you're making decisions, you're deciding what goes and what doesn't. But, again, that unnecessary guilt, unneeded mental energy that you're putting into it. And I think that and the reason why I said ask for help, because I feel like when someone is by your side, whether that be someone like myself who's a professional organizer or a friend, like it kind of diffuses that. Like, that's kind of neat how we do. I have a client who goes, wow, in my mind, it felt so difficult to get rid of these like clothes. And, with you here, it was so much easier than I
Oh
thought,
yeah.
you know, that's, and I think sometimes we just need
Well,
that,
it goes like
and we give ourselves such a hard time
it's
in our
the social
minds,
piece
right?
again. So we're used to having stuff
The
together. If you
social.
think
Hmm.
no, so not just a little bit back, but back again to like where we have to be a community to survive as a species. Like if you didn't work together, like I know you love all this pile of rocks that you like just collected, but now we have to move because it's going to be cold. Like you can't bring your rocks. You have too many rocks. Let's go through your rocks together. Like you, I mean, I'm being facetious, but you get what I'm saying. Like there was a real
I
reason
do. Yeah.
why we shared these things because it was important and we're much more successful. Even if you're
Mhm.
an introvert, it doesn't matter. You're still more successful for a lot of these pieces if there's a social component to it. Like, yeah, you don't have to invite 50 people over while you
Yeah.
do these things, but having someone that you can bounce stuff off of and just share the experience with so that if you have something to say about it or a question to ask, there's somebody there who cares. Um, mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's
That's
super
great.
helpful to have somebody. But I want to go back to one thing you said about the mental energy. Um, this is
Yeah,
for real.
for
So
sure.
your
Hmm.
brain is a little bit lazy on purpose. We burn a lot of glucose to make our brains work. And our brains work really hard when we're trying to figure out getting rid of stuff, keeping stuff, where are we going to put stuff, where is this going to live, what's going to happen, am I losing a piece of myself or my child by doing like this is a lot of mental energy that burns a lot of glucose. Your brain doesn't want to do that. Your brain always just, we know our bodies just want to hold on to all the energy so that we can save it for later if we need it. Um, and your brain is
Hmm.
still doing that from all of those years of evolution. It's still going to hold on to being lazy as possible. It will always take the easy path when it can, because that's what it wants to do. Like body at rest will stay at rest. Like so when it doesn't want to do all that extra
Mm.
mental energy, it is tiring to make the decision. But we are evolving beyond that because it doesn't feel relaxing to see all that stuff over and over again. So in the
Right.
moment, yes, it uses a lot of energy and it can feel exhausting, so much so that even the idea of getting towards it makes you tired. You're so wrapped up in the loss before it even happens that you're like, I can't do it. It's going to be so overwhelming. I don't want to do this. Um, yeah, so it's a real thing. I don't want people to think like, oh, mentally I'm tired, but you're like literally mentally your brain is tired, like the energy
Yeah.
is depleted from doing those things.
Wow.
um but you only declutter so much, and then you just have to
Yeah.
maintain it.
Yeah.
It's much easier to maintain things.
Right.
Your brain doesn't mind maintaining. It's
Right.
happy to maintain all the piles of stuff you
Right.
have right now. So that's why decrease it and then
Yeah.
maintain at
And
a
it's
lower level. It'll be perfect.
mhm. Decrease, maintain, and let it be good enough, right? Let
Oh,
it
it's
be
my
good
favorite.
enough. Like,
My favorite.
doesn't have to be perfect. Like I always say, I mean, I say it over and over, but somehow our minds need to like, grasp it. Take the time to grasp it. It doesn't, like, I would hear people when I ask like, oh, what's the one space in your house that bothers you a lot? Well, the whole thing.
No,
you
no,
know,
that's not
they'll,
the answer. The answer.
they'll tell me
Pick
that, no,
one.
just one
Pick one.
space. All of it. So I
I,
need I need to
I
organize
can
like
I can
now,
totally
the whole
appreciate
house.
that. I know some people who would say that exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's so funny. And that's why you're there to
But
help. Like, no, no,
yeah,
we're going to break
yeah,
it down into chunk. And
yeah,
that's the thing too. A little bit at a time is going to go a lot farther than trying to say like this weekend I'm going to declutter my house. That's probably not
yeah.
going to be super successful unless you have a very tiny house, which some
Hmm.
people do. So that's okay.
Right.
But in
Yeah,
general, doing a little
yeah.
bit over a long period of time is going to be way more successful as you get used to making changes.
Right.
Change is hard,
Change is
usually
hard.
valuable, but
Change is hard.
still
Yeah.
hard.
Right. Right. So just there it is possible to
It
detach
is.
ourselves from our
It
stuff
is.
is the
And it
message,
takes a
and
little bit of work to like build up those
understanding. Yeah.
attachments. Like, so, I mean,
Hmm.
the sooner you can start parting with things in a positive way, the easier it makes it overall. Um,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
really what we want.
And it takes time, it takes, yeah, and it takes exercise, it takes practice, to do. So, and I love all the insight that you've shared so far, Jess. It's so cool. Because it honestly, I mean, decluttering and organizing, and though you are the professional, I glean so much from you as a home organizer, because there's so much, there's a big piece of mindset. There's a big piece of the mental happenings, mental things that happen in our within ourselves. When it comes to our stuff, it's very much connected, it's very much impacted. And so I really appreciate you for taking the time to explain that to us. And I hope that you know my listeners get lots out of it. And I thank you for being a listener. I'm telling you, I'm so honored. So
Well,
so
I like
thank
how
you
you
so
talk
much
about
for being both
mental
now.
health, mental wellness.
Yeah.
That's value added, I think, for everyone. We can't harp on this enough. If you need something, ask for help. It's everywhere.
Ask.
It's everywhere, and you're not alone. You're not. People know. They've been through that,
Yeah.
and organizing can be a form of mental wellness. It's good.
Yay! Yes, it is. It's
Yes,
Jess approved.
definitely.
I love it. So, well, thank you, Jess. And how, if my listeners like want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
So I am a psychiatrist, and I'm licensed only in Texas and Florida, and I don't really see a lot of new patients. I can provide a link in my bio if you are very interested, from a patient standpoint. But I also do some coaching, especially for parents, especially for moms, the mom guilt thing. Like, I do a lot with mindset,
Awesome.
and my
Yeah.
big thing is like helping to get kids early so they do their own thing. Like, that's a big deal. So I have a website, and my email is the same. The website is Coach Jess MD, two S's in Jess, or Jess at Coach Jess MD. So, like, it's easy enough to find me if you can remember
Yeah.
that. And I'll provide the links for you. But yeah,
Cool.
um, I love to answer questions. I love to engage with people. I think there's so much knowledge out there, and people can do a whole lot for themselves if they just get a little bit more information, understanding why. You're not just choosing what's happening. Like, your brain is tricking you sometimes. It wants what it wants, and you're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I disagree. So I have some tips sometimes for helping you move through that and make the decisions that align for you as a person in your soul, and not just what your brain's chemistry tells you it wants. So
Wonderful. So great, Jess. And yes, I'll include that in the podcast description, how people can get a hold of you and connect with you. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your time. And I love that we're connected in this way and through the podcast. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing. It's not the easiest thing. I always say that, like, oh, podcasting is kind of hard.
it's so
But I
valuable.
love the
we
people that
we
I've
get
met.
so much value
Yeah.
from you doing your thing. Like, I have, my life
Yeah.
is richer for having your podcast. I love to listen to it, and I just feel like I'm like a celebrity, like meeting a celebrity. It's so exciting. But yeah, what you do is amazing, and we keep doing it.
Thank you. Thanks, Jess, and have a wonderful rest of your
Thank you.
day.
All right,
Thanks.
bye.
Bye. It's been such a blast bringing this to you, and I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Have a safe and enjoyable one, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.